Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Israel, Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm Rabbi Scott Kramer. Shabbat Shalom. We've made it to the end of the week. We made it to Shabbat. I've been looking forward to it all week. We are praying out of Siddur Lev Shalem. Sorry, just trying to get myself organized here. And we will begin. Good evening, Ken. How are you? Shabbat Shalom. And we will begin with Yedid Nefesh on page 10. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Mishoch Avdach Eritzonach Yarutz Avdach Kemo Hayal Ishtachave Mul Hadarach Ki Erav Lo Yedidutach Minofet Suf Vechol Ta'am Hadur Noe Eziva Olam Nafshi Cholat Avatach Anoeilna Refanala Beharodla Noam Zivach Az Titchazek Vetitrape Vehayetalach Shifchat Olam Vatik Yemu Urachamecha Vechusna Ben Ohavach Ki Ze Kama Nichsof Nichsaf Lirop Tiferet Uzach Anayli Mahmad Libi Chushana Veyati Talam Igalena Afros Chaviv Alai Etzukat Shelomach Ta'ir Eretz Mikvodach Nagila V'nismecha bach Ma'ahuv Kiva Moed V'chaneini Ki me'olam Yalla la 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 My laptop came unplugged. Hang on one second. Plugged in. Okay. Sorry about that. We'll continue page 11. Lechu neranena ladonai naria letzor yeshenu Nikad mafanav betoda bizmirot nari alo ki el gadol Adonai melech haolam. 40 shana akut bedor vaomar am toele vavem vehem lo yadu derachai asher nishpati v'api im yavon el menuchati. Page 13. Ashiru ladonai shir chadash, shiru ladonai kol haaretz, shiru ladonai baruch shemo, basru meyom leyom yeshuato, sapru vagoyim kevodo, bechol ha'amim nifliotav, ki gadol Adonai. O meholal miyod norahu alko Elohim laila kiko Elohe milim vadonai shamayim masa had v'hadar lefanov oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho havu ladonai mishpachot amim havu ladonai kavod v'oz havu ladonai ke'evod shemo seu mincha uvahu l'chatzrod av layla shtachavu ladonai behadrat kodesh chilo mipanav kol haaretz imru vagoyim Adonai malach avtikum tevel balatimot yadinamim b'meisharim yismechu hashamayim v'tagil haaretz ayir amayamu melo yalu sadai v'chol asher bo layla az yechanenu kol hatziyar lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel betzedek v'yamim be'emunato yalai lalai lai 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 ya lai 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 ya lai 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 ya lai 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 ya lai lai lai. Page 15, Psalm 97. Adonai melech togel haaretz yismuchim rabim anavach ve'osvivav tzedek mishpat machon kis'ohu. Shama v'tismach Tzion v'togelna benod Yehuda leman mishpatecha Adonai ki ata Adonai elyon al kol haaretz miod na'aleta al ko Elohim ohave Adonai sinura shomer nafshot chasidav miad reshaim yatzilem or zaru al tzadik ul yisrael simcha simchu tzadikim b'Adonai v'hodu lezecher kodsho. Page 17, Psalm 98. Amizmor shiru ladonai shir chadash ki nifla asa hoshia lo yemino Uzaroa kocho adia Adonai Yeshuato Le'ena goyim gilantzit kato Zachar chastav emunato Levei Yisrael Ra'u cholav se'aretz את ישועת אלוהינו, הוריעו לאדוני כל הארץ, פצחום ורננו וזמרו, זמרו לאדוני בכינור וכל זמרה, בחצות רוד וכל שופר, הוריעו לפני המלך אדוני, ירם הים מלואו, תבל ויושביה, נהרות ימחאו כף, יחד הרים ירננו, לפני אדוני קיבה, לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, וימים במישרים, ילאי, ילאי, ללללאי, ללללאי, ילאי, ללאי, ללללאי, ילאי, ללאי, ללללאי, ללללאי, lay 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 ya lay 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 ya lay 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 ya lay 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 ya lay 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 lay. Page 19, Psalm 99. Adonai malak yiromim yoshev keruvim atanu ta'aretz. Adonai Tzion Gadol, 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 Vrama Ko El Ha'amim. Moshe v'Aaron b'Kohanav, Ushmoel b'Korei Shemo, Korim El Adonai, Ve'o Yanem Bi'amud Anan Yidaber Aleihem Shamru Edotav V'chok Natan Lamo Adonai Eloheinu Atanitam El Nosei Ayita Lahem V'nokim Alalilotam Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Vishtachavu lehar kadsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We rise, page 21, if you're able, Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai Kavod vows, lai lai lai, havu l'Adonai, kivod shemo ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai alamayim mehel kavod hirim, Adonai amayim rabim, kol Amayim Rabim Lai 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 Kol Adonai Ba'koach Kol Adonai Be'adar Kol Adonai Shover Abrazim V'shaber Adonai V'tarzei Alvanon V'yarkidem Kemo Egel Livnon V'Sirion Kemo V'Noemim Lai 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 Kol Adonai Chotzav Lavotesh Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh Kol Adonai Yecholel Ayalop V'Yechesof Ye'arot Uveichalo Kulo Omer Kavod Lai 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 Danu Adonai Lamabut Yashava Yeshev Adonai Melech Leolam Adonai Oz Liyamo Yitin Adonai Yavarech Etamu Vashalom Yai Lai 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 Yai Lai 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 Yai Lai 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 Yai Lai Lai Lai. You may be seated. We continue on page 23 with Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Shamor V'Zachor B'Dibur Echad Hishmi'anu Elam Yuchad Adonai Echad Ushamo Echad L'Shemo Tiferet V'Litila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Likrat Shabbat Lechu V'Nelcha Ki Mikora Beracham Merosh Mikedem Nesucha Sov Maaseh B'Machshvat Chila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha Kumitzi Mitocha Afecha Ravlach Shevet Biyemek Habacha V'hu Yachamo Alaychem La Lecha Dodi Lekrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Hitnari Me'afar Kumi Liv Shevig De Tifartech Ami Hayad Ben Yishai Beit Alachmi Karva El Nafshi Geyala Lecha Dodi Lekrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Hitoreri Kiva Ore Kumi Ori Ori Shirda Beri Kivod Adonai Alayach Nigla Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Lo Tevoshi V'lo Tikami Ma Tishtochachi U'ma Tehemi Bach Yechasu Ani Yayami V'nivnata Ir Al Tila Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila V'hayulim Shisa Shahawasayich V'erachakuko Mihivalayich Yasis Alayich Elohayich Kimchas Chatan Al Kala Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat Nikabila Yaminu smoti froti vieta donai taiti ayadish ben parti venismecha venagila lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabila. We rise as we face the entrance. We face towards the west to greet the Shabbat bride. Bo'i v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvetzala toch emunei am segula bo'i chala lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabila. You may be seated. Page 27, Psalm 92. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. Tzadik Tamar Yifrach Ki Erez Balvanon Yizke Shetulim Beveit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Nod Yeduvun Beseva Deshenim Verananim Yeyu Le'agid Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri V'lo Havlatobo. Page 29, Psalm 93. Adonai Malakim. Mikolot, Mikolot, Mayim Rabim, Adirim, Adirim, Mishpereyam, Adibamarom, Adibamarom, Adonai, Adibamarom, Adibamarom, Adonai, Edo Techanem Numiod, Leveit Chanava Kodesh, Adonai, Leorech Yahamim. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to everyone. This is that point in the service where we're able to take a collective breath and greet each other. I wish we could do that in person, but since March of 2020, March of 2020, this has been the way of the world. Whenever I have groups visiting a synagogue for the first time, usually a Christian group, I have them sit and just soak in the environment. And then I ask them what it is that they see. I ask them what looks familiar and what does not. You can imagine, well, except for me standing here in front of what could be the inside of a cockpit, a bima, or the podium where I speak from, is probably similar to that in a church. There are two podiums we have. And then, let me change the cam view. And then they, of course, will notice some Hebrew letters on a door. And of course, I explain to them that's where we keep our Torah scrolls. And those Hebrew letters on the door are actually the first two words of each of the 10 Commandments. And then they'll see the seven-branched candelabrum, which they might know from reading the Bible is the seven-branch candelabrum that existed there, because it doesn't look like this one, and there are two of them. But then someone will notice, their eyes will go up, and they'll notice, what is that thing with the two red lights on it? And, of course, I explain to them, that is the Ner Tamid, the eternal light. This phrase is mentioned in this week's Torah portion, Tetzaveh. The first verse goes, V'ata tetzaveh et bnei Yisrael, you shall further instruct the Israelites, V'yichu elecha shemen zayit zach katit lamaor, to bring you clear oil of beaten olives, lahalot, for lighting, ner tamid, the eternal light. Ner tamid. This is where the phrase comes from in this week's Torah portion. Ner tamid means eternal light. Now, how many of us have grown up and seen the light go out? It's just a light bulb. And sometimes it goes out, and there's always a shock. Oh, the eternal light went out. It's never supposed to go out. So there's something about this word, this phrase, an eternal light. It doesn't mean that it was burning all the time. It means that for all time it was relit every evening, and the light went out when it was light. In the morning, the light would go out, and they would relight it in the evening. So the eternal part of that means they will forever relight the candelabrum at night. Several things are interesting here. The oil from olives in the ancient world was used for lighting at night. And of course, the candelabrum in the Mishkan, in the desert sanctuary, and then in the temple, was made from consecrated oil, which was the very first oil that comes out of the olive. It was also used, the oil was also used for anointing kings and priests. Though I've never really found a very good explanation of why one would pour olive oil on someone's head to pronounce them a king of Israel or a high priest. And I've looked high and low, and I've never found a good answer for what that might be about. The Ner Tamid was represented in the temple, as I said, with the 7-branched menorah. When I was in Boy Scouts, when I was growing up, many, many decades ago, the highest religious award you could get if you were Jewish was the Ner Tamid medal. And I was going to try and find it and bring it in tonight, but I ran out of time. The menorah represented the presence of God in his holy sanctuary. It was placed close to the Ark of the Covenant and illuminated it at night. We have the Ner Tamid in our sanctuary just above our Aron HaKodesh, our holy ark. It represents God's omnipresence, continually watching over us and our holy scriptures written on the Torah scrolls within the ark. Those in mourning for the first 7 days during Shiva also have a ner that they keep lit for 7 days after a funeral. We call this a Shiva Candle. Shiva means 7, the initial period of mourning for Jews. The Shiva Candle represents the soul of the departed. After 7 days, the candle goes out and the soul departs. In Kabbalistic tradition, the soul resides in 3 places: around the grave, in the heavenly Garden of Eden, and in God's presence. Whenever I see the Ner Tamid Nashor, I immediately think that not only does this represent God in our midst, but also of all the souls that return to God after Shiva. You could look at this as a perpetual yahrzeit candle. My hope is that when you all come to shul, either in person or online, to pray that you look upon this Ner Tamid, I forgot to move the cam back, sorry. That you look upon this Ner Tamid, and it reminds you and brings comfort to you for all of those that you mourn for those that brought you comfort and laughter and meaning. Even though there are sometimes not enough people here for a minyan, I like to think that the bima is crowded with the countless souls of those that used to sit where you used to sit when you were in the sanctuary. I don't feel so lonely then when we have a small crowd. I bask in the glow of those that gave us life, that provided us with life's meaning, and who cared for us. Shabbat Shalom. We'll continue our service, page 39a. Ask everyone to please rise for the call to worship the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Leolam Avoed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvocho mariv achavim. U'mahavir yom u'mevi laila mavdir ben yom u'vei laila Adonai tzavot shemo el chai v'kayem tamid yimloch aleinu lamvoed baruch et Adonai hamariv aravim. Page 40. Ahavat olam et Yisrael amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadta al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha leolam voed ki hem chayenu v'orech yameinu uvahem menege yomam v'layla v'yavetcha tasim mimenu la'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ho'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinanatam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shachpecha v'kumecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot b'ninecha u'chtavtam namzot beitecha u'visharecha v'haya im shamoa tishma'u el mitzvotai. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta lehem v'yasu lehem tzitzit al kanfei v'gnehem ledoratam v'natnu al tzitzit takana petiol tachelep v'haya lachem letzitzit oritem oto uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam V'lo tatu racharei levavachem v'yacharei nechem asher tem zonim achareihem leman dizgaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etachem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emet. Page 43a. Ve'emuna kol zot v'kayam aleinu. Page 44. U'malchuta b'ratzin kibalehem Moshe v'nei Yisrael nishira B'simcha rabba v'yamaru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedor b'kodesh Menorah tehilot o seifele Malchut charu v'necha bokeyam lifnei Moshe Zeli anu v'yameru Adonai yimloch leolam voed V'nehemar kivod Adonai et Yaakov Ugalad miyad chazak mimenu Baruch Adonai Ga'al Yisrael, page 45. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. Ushmotzeitenu vein l'chaim u'shalom yatav yeralam u'fosel n'sukat shlomecha Baruch Adonai Haporet sukat shalom aleinu v'yal kol amo Yisrael v'yal Yerushalayim. We rise, page 46. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi shavat v'yinafash shavat v'yinafash shavat v'yinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam barit olam. We rise for the silent Amidah for Friday night, pages 47 through 52. Who does your Ner Tamid represent you in your life? Bring them into your Amidah with you. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol ha-shalom, shalom rav Yisrael amcha tasim leolam, shalom rav Yisrael amcha tasim leolam, v'tov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב הישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב הישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. Tasim leolam. We rise as we turn to page 56, and the ark is open for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו הבל זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת הים והשבות אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד על כן נכבד עלינו לראות מבטיח קדושך כלכלו לי מן הארץ האלים קראתם ברוך שדה וכמו בני ועשר יושמך ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. To move the camera. Okay, sorry about that. This week we will observe yard sites for Moses Cohn, Yetta Goldblatt Cook, Nicholas Gross, Nate Lang, Benjamin Margolis, Marion Shinbaum, Connie Elizondo, Bella Kraselsky, Lillian Perlman, Sarah Varen Siegel, Bernice Shugart, Jaime Byrne, Ida Russo, Samuel Blitz, Meyer Cassover, Lillian Rubenstein, Sarah Abramson, Dr. Isaac E. Capilouto, Anna Golem, Ann Levy, Eva Owen, Philip Rubenstein, Victoria Toronto, and Shalom Travis. I received 2 remembrances. The first one came from Irene for her mom, Connie Elizondo, or Consuelo Elizondo. On February 20th, 2016, our mama finished her battle with Alzheimer's disease. I had the honor of caring for her in our home the last 4 years of her life, and we truly had an incredible journey. Our mama was the disciplinarian of the family. She taught us many life skills and common sense. Having finished school after the 5th grade to help her family in the fields, she had developed her own incredible common sense and intelligence. She started work at a hospital as a housekeeper. This was a perfect job for her because she was an immaculate housekeeper in her own home. I know this because I had to clean my bedroom 3 or 4 times on the same day until it was as clean as she expected it to be. By the time she retired from the hospital, she was supervisor of the department and even did some work on the computers, which were just being introduced to the hospital setting at that time. My sisters and I often wondered what our mother would have done if she had completed her education. Having to take care of her for those last 4 years cost me my memories of what she was like before the disease. However, over the past 6 years, I have been able to recall some of those positive memories. I hold them in my heart as precious jewels, and they have a place right next to the love I still have for my mama. And this next one came from Esther Varon for her aunt, Eva Owen. She was married to an American citizen in China, and he brought her over to the United States. My aunt's one ambition was to bring as many of her family members to the land of freedom. Eva was able to bring her brother Aaron and his family to the United States, and then tried to bring her baby sister Frances and her family over. My aunt pinched her pennies to save her money during the Depression, and with the rules of that time, you had to ensure that no one would become a ward of the state for 5 years. Eva got her brother-in-law and oldest daughter, Esther, into the United States by October of 1940, so he could find work and bring the rest of the family. Her sister Frances and Esther's baby sister Edith got as far as Manila in the Philippines. My aunt waited and finally got them to the United States when MacArthur took Manila. We would not have become citizens of the United States without the sacrifices of my dear Aunt Eva. Those observing yahrzeit and those who mourn, please rise and join me for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 58. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, b'yama divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayichon v'yamechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalav izman kariv v'meru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam omel maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shmei d'kudisha b'richu, Leilam min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran b'yoma v'yimaru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Ose shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. You may be seated. Now the light comes on. Thank you all for joining me this evening, for joining us for Kabbalat Shabbat. I will be here back tomorrow morning, at 9:30 for the continuation of Shabbat. And then we will join via Zoom to celebrate the end of Shabbat tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for the Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah. If you did not get the link or and would like to attend, please email me at ravmalki@gmail.com. That's ravmalki@gmail.com, and I will get you that link. This week, we are starting a virtual adult education class. That will be on Tuesdays beginning February 15th, which is the next Tuesday, at 1 p.m. And we will be studying Pirkei Avot, the wisdom of our sages. Pirkei Avot is a wonderful, wonderful treatise. It's part of the Mishnah, it's part of the oral law, and contains so many words of wisdom from our sages. And I really mean that. It's just an amazing collection of sayings from our sages. And we will study this together via Zoom. If you would like to attend the class, please, you will have to email me again at ravmalki@gmail.com, ravmalki@gmail.com. Don't email the office, email me. Linda may not get the message from Linda, so you'll have to email me to get that link. And I hope you come. I think we've got a nice group already. I think I've had about 10 people already email me, and so it should be a lot of fun. With that, we will go ahead and conclude our service, page 211, with Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ed nasa v'chefso kol azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlot hakol lava ado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu oveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu yiyeh b'tifara v'hu echad v'yein sheni laham shilo lehachbira beli reshit beli tachlit v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra v'hu eli v'chai go eli v'tzor chevli b'yetzara v'hu nisi umanosli menat kosi b'yomekra b'yado afkid ruchi hibiyet ishan v'yaira v'imaruchi Giviyati Adonai li velo ira Adonai li velo ira Shabbat